Hey, the amount of videos I do where I didn't press record. Alright, this is Pantsless Stranger #1 from the New 52. I had remembered this series as being quite good, but then I came to realise that Jim Tomatoes, he doesn't actually write the first few issues, and instead Didio writes them, and as a result, they are quite fucking bad. This one, it is guilty of what is a common failing of modern comics. They save the hook, the one part of the comic that might grab you, until the last few pages to trick you into buying the next one, even after they are pretty much wasted at all first issue. Pantsless Stranger, he is a character like Spectre. He's not the most obvious candidate for a solo ongoing series. I would argue even less than Spectre, because unlike Spectre, part of the setup for Pantsless Stranger, it requires some ambiguity and mystery. This is eventually a decent series, but this is a lousy first issue. We start off here with Pantsless Stranger. He crosses paths with a nubile little boy who is playing footy. Another problem with Pantsless Stranger in being a protagonist is that his motives and even compassion, they are not always obvious or clear. And at least with Spectre, you always kind of have a human side. You have Phil Spector. Whereas Pantsless Stranger is at times lacking on the human front, as this issue will show, because to really endear you to this character in his first issue, Didio, he as Pantsless Stranger knowingly let the little boy run out into a busy road, knowing full well that the boy will be hit by a car and die. And if you think that is pretty dodgy, wait until you see his reason for this. It's also of note because Didio, as an editor, he was known for wanting to make everything dark and edgy. And here we have a comic that is written by him, and we open with a young child being ran over. So this is the boy's funeral, and at the funeral is this girl. This is actually Emo Girl from the Tiny Titans. And Pantsless Stranger, he let the boy die just so that at the funeral he would cross paths with Emo Girl. And trust us, it gets worse. This is our new 52 version of Emo Girl. This is the introduction to her as well. Quite odd that it would be in Pantsless Stranger #1 instead of like Tiny Titans #1 or whatever. But we have this idea of Pantsless Stranger helping her out and teaching her about her powers. And that is fine. That would be a fine idea. So they go for a chat and they talk about Emo Girl's dad. Her dad is called Trigger, and he's like a big evil demon. And then they get attacked by a bunch of Trigger's evil demon army, and for exactly one page, it seems like it might be alright. Pantsless Stranger, he is protecting her, but then he teleports them both away to Stonehenge, where the demons dwell and the banshees cry. And Emo Girl, she's like, no, I didn't want to be here, mate. This is where me dad Trigger is like at his strongest. But yeah, it turns out that Pantsless Stranger, he is a total arsehole, and he has made a deal with Trigger. That is Trigger there. Lovely jubbly. Rodney, Uncle Alf has shot himself again. And Pantsless Stranger, he hands Emo Girl over to Trigger. And again, he is knowing full well what will happen, that her father will torture and abuse her. And she's like crying out, begging him not to let this happen, and he just coldly ignores her. Then we have rubbish about how Pantsless Stranger, he answers to a higher power, i.e. God, and how God apparently wanted all this to happen. God, he apparently wanted Pantsless Stranger to effectively shove a little boy in front of a car and then send a teenage girl to demon slave pits. And after a whole issue of making Pantsless Stranger into an inhumane child killer, we end with what is the intriguing idea, and that is that when he isn't being a heartless evil bastard, Pantsless Stranger, he apparently has started like a real life for himself with a wife and kids. That is compelling, that is interesting, that is an engaging idea. Front load this stuff. That is a more attractive way to establish a hero than everything that preceded this. And the last panel, it's that New 52 Where's Wally character. She's right there, not hidden in this one. This comic, oh, I like that film. Controversial opinion, it is better than the comic it is based on. But with this Pantsless Stranger, I didn't recommend this at all. It's quite terrible. I was making a big mistake to remember this series positively. I mean, it gets a lot better when it gets an actual writer and not an editor writing. An editor who has been fired because he was so shit at his job. If I remember, Jim Tomatoes, his first issue has Spectre in it, so that is another bonus. Then, when this book was eventually cancelled, he moved out of the Dark Justice League. I like that book too. This, I didn't like. Skip the first 3 issues, or only read them out of obligation so that you can follow the better issues more. I rate this 7 thumbs up.